You guys can check it out after the show, okay?
Hey, what's up, Spider Nation? This is Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. We're back for another episode this week. Basically, this week we got me, your host, Jonathan, webmaster of SpiderManFanRave.com, SpiderManFanRave.com. Pretty basic URL. Go on over there. We got some Spider-Man news, articles, anything you need from us over there. We got in terms of Spider-Man news. And tonight I'm being joined by James. What's going on, James?
I'm doing pretty good. Just got done having fun with my friends. That's why this episode's a little bit later. We've been celebrating my birthday, so I've been having fun doing that. I also finally got my school crap, so I'm happy about that. And only bad side is I had a bad rash all weekend, so yeah, been taking a lot of allergy pills to get that taken down.
And tonight we're also being joined by Jan. What's going on, Jan?
Not much. I had a pretty busy day yesterday. I had watched some movies with a friend, and then I had to work out with my other friends, and then I had to go. I went to see Ant-Man with my third friend, so it was like I didn't get
movie.
free time.
That's a good movie, Ant-Man.
Yeah, it is.
Jan has a lot of nameless friends. We wonder if they really exist or not. In terms of myself this week, basically I've started college. It's a lot more fun than I actually thought it would be. So I enjoy that. What else have I...
I'll say this right now. I think college life is better than when you're in high school.
Oh, hell yeah. After 1 week of college, oh, yes, I agree with that.
Exam weeks, I wouldn't say that. Exam weeks, it's tougher, but besides that, it's fine with me.
The general atmosphere of college is so much better. Yeah, other than that this week, really, that's been my life this week. I've had some fun with my music classes and all that stuff. I have a monkey. I have a monkey right here. Little stuffed monkey. Yes, I found this the other day. It's actually a toy from one of my dogs that I don't know. She doesn't really play with it that much. She doesn't really like it. I don't know why, so I just took it. She prefers her little pink bunny rabbit. I don't know why. She likes to tear up her toys and then use them for, I don't know, use them for her own personal desires. So what are we talking about tonight in terms of Spider-Man? Well, we don't really have any news to talk about this week. We don't really have any current comics to talk about this week. So basically, we thought this week would be a little bit of a blast from the past. And when we say blast from the past, we mean going back all of 5 years. Because we've spoken a bit about Dan Slott and his run on Spider-Man on this show. And we've talked a lot about how, we've talked about things we like, we talk about things we don't like. A lot of times it feels like we talk about mainly stuff that we don't like. Obviously we do like a lot of things from his run. I like a lot of things from his run. I think Jan likes some certain things. I think James likes some certain things. But tonight I think tonight we decided to go back and really take a look at what is really the start of Dan Slott's run on Amazing Spider-Man. So
His solo run.
yeah, his solo run, because yes, he did work on Brand New Day. He was part of the massive Spidey Brain Trust. He was part of the Webheads during the time when there were 9, 10 writers working on Amazing Spider-Man, and basically that was just the Brand New Day era. That was just how it worked. But we decided, you know what, we're going to go back. We're going to look at the first part of Dan Slott's solo run on Amazing Spider-Man. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at Amazing Spider-Man number 648 through 651. That is the first 4-part story of Big Time, and that's actually the title of the story itself, Big Time. Basically, to give a little bit of history, to give a little bit of setup as to where this story is really taking place. This is a bit of a status quo change for Peter Parker, because during the Brand New Day era, they really tried to sell the idea that, okay, Peter Parker was, renting this apartment he started renting it with Vin Gonzalez, and then obviously after Vin Gonzalez was convicted of the Spider Tracer killings and stuff like that, Michelle Gonzalez. Can someone refresh me? Is Michelle Gonzalez his sister, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sister. Vin's younger
The
sister.
one that Peter Parker had a one-night stand with.
Only he
Yes.
didn't work on that. It was just she slept naked with him in the same bed because he was too drunk or something like that.
It's stupid.
But he shared the apartment with Michelle Gonzalez. Obviously, the usual insane roommate antics implied. So, and obviously he always had his rent. He always had his rent troubles. He had some troubles with making money. Obviously, I think it was Amazing Spider-Man Ooh, I'm trying to remember the issue numbers. It was around 624 ish. Uh, there was a story where Peter Parker was blackballed out of the photography business because he doctored a photo to make Mayor Jameson look good, and Mayor Jameson called him out on live TV for that. So obviously he's been having a lot of money troubles, but he was having money troubles even before that. That was kind of more of a staple of the Brand New Day era. The Brand New Day era really attempted to bring back the idea that Peter Parker was a struggling, quote-unquote, kid. They really tried to emphasize that part of his life. This new status quo that comes about in the Big Time era really tries to take that idea, move it to the side, and bring Peter Parker, kind of develop his setting a little bit. They try to give him a new job. They try to they moved out some supporting cast members from the Brand New Day era. They get rid of Michelle Gonzalez. Then Gonzalez is gone. Harry Osborn was written out of the titles in the issue prior to this. He's taking Stanley Osborn, his most recent son, on the run from Norman because he doesn't want Norman to really have any interaction with him whatsoever. They got rid of some supporting cast members. They gave Peter a new job. They introduced some new characters into his world, and they've established basically an entirely new occupation for him, while also moving some characters along in plots that had started in Brand New Day, such as Doc Ock trying to escape his deteriorating body, trying to basically live out his last days, obviously until Amazing 700 with Superior Spider-Man. Ock has his own version of the Sinister Six that's kind of formed in the previous story, Origin of the Species, and has really continued throughout this Big Time run. We obviously see a lot of that. This is around the time when the Avengers really start to play a much bigger role in Amazing Spider-Man. They make quite frequent guest appearances along with other superheroes. So this is definitely much. It's a step away from what was happening in Brand New Day with the struggling quote-unquote kid, as I put it, and moves more into giving Peter Parker a place in the world. It's almost like the Brand New Day era was a boy becoming a man, and then the Big Time era is the man finding his place in the world. Obviously, you can make
him become a man before in JMS's run, and then before that in Blind's run.
Yes, I was just about to say, you can make several arguments that Peter Parker had become a man way before the Brand New Day era even started, but obviously the whole idea of Brand New Day was trying to take the character back to his roots a bit. Obviously, they de-aged him a bit. They kind of regressed him a bit, so I guess you could kind of make that argument that they were trying to go with that theme.
Well, I think that's just kind of the nature of comics. Like, characters learn things, and usually they stick with them, but for the sake of telling more stories, it just kind of, you can't, kind of go back a little bit, I guess.
And when I say a boy becoming a man, that's almost kind of the theme of it's actually almost kind of the theme of the beginning of Big Time, more so than Brand New Day. I'm thinking about it more right now. It's just like Peter Parker was not really the most mature person during Brand New Day, but he grows to mature a bit during Big Time, obviously with his new occupation. And something else we forgot to mention is throughout Brand New Day, it was kind of hinted that Peter Parker would be getting into a relationship with Carly Cooper. By the end of that specific era, he is in a relationship with Carly Cooper, and Big Time is really more about exploring that relationship.
You mean the issue before this one, where she becomes a psychotic bitch in a store? Brian the Nose showed their friend joining the Witness Protection Agency. Their friend, who introduced them to each other, is going into the Witness Protection Agency to protect his child. And she decided, you haven't defined the relationship with me, Peter. I don't want to go to his party because I'm mad at you for defining our relationship. So he blackmailed him, over their friends going away party to the Witness Protection Agency.
Yeah, that was the kind of quality. That was the kind of quality characterization that Brand New Day gave out.
Well, I think, John, I think we could make the argument that Brand New Day was a man becoming a boy again.
I don't really disagree with that either. Like, in all honesty, I don't disagree with that. The idea of a man becoming a boy again, like that's
what Brand New Day was.
I'll admit, when this issue was coming out, I was excited. Dan Slott was my favorite artist favorite writer on the what you would call it, the Brain Trust or the Webheads or whatever the fuck they call themselves. He was the best. And you could definitely tell that the main stories were his, and everybody else just felt like satellite titles when they were on the book. And so when he was getting his own book, I was like, yeah, it's fresh. They're going to have one writer, couple artists. One of them's Ramos, but I can live with Ramos as long as the stories are good. Because I lived with him throughout the Paul Jenkins era of Spider-Man for Peter Parker and Spectacular. So as long as the stories are good, I'm not going to be really pissed off at Ramos. And I was just so excited. And I remember picking up this issue and saying, hey, this is kind of does feel like a Spider-Man of the 70s put into the new millennium. I actually think this is pretty cool. It's just when you get to towards the end of this run that I started doing more face palms than I ever did in comics.
For me, what I've read of Slott's run, because I've read most of it, it kind of starts to go south around, what was that Sinister Six story he did? Ends of the Earth, right? That's where it kind of started to go a little bit south for me. And then everything after that was a little bit...
It started to lose me around Spider Island. Right after Spider Island ended, that's when it started becoming less a priority, Amazing Spider-Man on my pull list, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I think that when I look back at this era, Big Time in particular, obviously Dan Slott is still working on Spider-Man to this day. Obviously, he's done Superior Spider-Man, he's done Volume 3, he's doing Renew Your Vows. When I think of Big Time in general, when I just look at 648 to 700, it's fairly hit or miss with me. I think that there are plenty of good stories in there. I think there are plenty of stories that I'm not as big on. To give examples of stories that I do like, I really do like what's the Spider Slayer story called? Where Marla Jameson dies? Is it Invasion of the
Spider Slayers, isn't it?
Invasion.
Yeah, it's like Return of the Spider Slayer. I think that's what it's called.
Return of that, whatever that title is. That 3-part art. I like that. I like Spider Island. I know a lot of people don't, but I like Spider Island. I like the 2-part time travel story with Grady Scraps. I like the Lizard story. I like all the Phil Urich Hobgoblin stuff. I definitely like some of that. Stories I'm not as big on.
I like Spider Island too. I also like Spider Island. In fact, I like the joke of people. The reason why I liked it because it's Clone Saga 3. Like a movie, it's the third movie. It's Clone Saga 3.
I also like the Return of Anti-Venom story. I thought that was a pretty solid 2-parter as well.
That's one I've not read. I have not read that one, and I have not read the Grady Scraps time travel.
That's the first Reef one, isn't it? The Rafe one, isn't that it? Where she becomes a big deal? Because Peter thought it was the ghost of Jean DeWolf, and he's like, "You're not her at all. You're her former partner."
Yeah, the Wraith plays a pretty significant role in that storyline, and that's also. And at the end of that 2-parter, they kind of suggest that maybe you should back off of that a little bit. Of course, that goes out the window once you hit Superior Spider-Man, and then it goes out the window again once you hit Spiral. But
if I'm talking about Slott's run, I like what we're gonna do today. Like the first, it's like 3 issues or something, right? Like 3 or 4 issues.
I think it's 5, isn't it? Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, no, it's 4 stories.
So, I really like this stuff. I like pretty much everything that's in the Big Time Omnibus except for like the last half, where it starts to get into like the Fantastic Four stuff. That's where it starts to drop off. But
the Fantastic Four story that doesn't even fit in continuity with actually what's happening in the Fantastic Four books.
Yep, that one. And I also don't like. I talk about stuff I do like. I enjoyed Spider Island mostly because I really liked the way Dan Slott wrote the Jackal. I thought he was a really entertaining character and brought a lot of like fun kind of like dark humor, which is kind of my sense of humor. So I thought the Jackal is a highlight of Dan Slott's run.
My only problem with it was in all those like countdown to countdown to Spider Island where he would appear. Jackal, the artists were drawing him as '90s Jackal.
Yeah.
And then Dan Slott clearly went, "I'm a fan of the '70s Jackal. Draw '70s Jackal." But you're already drawing '90s Jackal. Who cares? Just pretending that didn't happen.
It could just be another clone.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, when you look when you deal with the Jackal, that is always the excuse. It could just be another clone.
Exactly. But I enjoyed. I think my favorite Dan Slott story is the original two-parter with Massacre. I guess it was technically just 1-parter, but like Massacre, where the whole like no one dies
No, it's
thing.
a 2-parter.
It was a 2-parter.
I think so, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
because the first part's that whole like Peter doesn't talk for like in that dream sequence where like midway most of the book.
Yeah, you're right. And then the second part is really
I remember I
puzzling.
picked up that book and I was over at my friend's Trevor's house. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be reading my Spider-Man comic. Literally a minute later, okay, I'm done reading. That fast? Trevor, like literally, like 75 pages are no words at all. It was just
Yeah,
okay, panel. Ooh, I remember that person when they died. Panel.
but yeah, I agree with you. But I really liked that story. I thought it was very like emotionally impactful, and it was kind of entertainingly meta. Meta. I can't
How
talk.
Peter's calling
Um,
off the whole kind of him and Superman and Batman having the whole no-kill rule. He's
yeah,
actually blatantly called that in, not out.
yeah, that was cool, and I really liked No Turning Back. I liked the 50th anniversary stories, like with Alpha, which I know a lot of people didn't like, but I thought it was fairly entertaining, and I enjoyed
It,
the two Hobgoblin story where it was Uric and Kingsley.
I didn't really get the freaking what's his name Alpha story because I always thought it was really stupid because it was like Dan Slott's whole point was I wanted you to hate this comic. That was the whole point. You appreciate Peter more by realizing what an arrogant asshole this other guy is. It's like,
Yeah, but see,
but you
that's why I
didn't need
like.
to write that for me to know that Peter was special.
Well, see, I mean, I didn't like Alpha, but I liked Peter's like the way he was written, and I really liked the Jackal because he was in that story, and I thought that was really like the Slot's best like use of the Jackal. So I don't know. I overall Slot's run has its fair share of high points.
And I think when we talk just specifically in terms of this first story that we're about to do, we're actually starting off with Amazing Spider-Man number 648 here. Let me just give a quick rundown of the creative team as I pull it up on my iPad. Basically, we got Amazing Spider-Man 648, Dan Slott, writer, Humberto Ramos, penciler, Carlos Cuevas. I'm so sorry. Carlos Cuevas on inks, Edgar Delgado on colors, VC's Joe Caramagna on lettering, Tom Brennan, associate editor, senior editor Stephen Wacker. Uh, Basically, to give a pretty basic rundown of the issue, um, Doc Ock is.
John, you got the credits wrong. It's not Stephen Wacker editor. It's small time Stephen Wacker.
Oh yes, I apologize. It does say small time under Steve Wacker's name, but he was the senior editor over the Spider-Man titles at the point of this issue's publication.
He
But
left after this, didn't he? Like he left like it was either this arc or the next arc he was gone, wasn't he?
no, he stayed on through Big Time. He stayed on through most of Superior. It was like at the end of Superior when he left and Nick Lowe came in. But give a basic rundown of this issue. Doc Ock is sending a bunch of gigantic Octobots to attack Manhattan. So Spider-Man teams up with the Avengers and the Fantastic Four to try to take them down. Ultimately, they actually win because after Ock sets the self-destruct sequence, Spider-Man decides to take the timer and sync it up with the internal clock that's working on the Octobot's operating system, and it works in delaying the explosion because it just happens to be daylight savings time on that day. So it's the first Sunday in November. We just got an extra hour. It's literally a stupid 2 in the morning kind of idea, which I thought was fairly humorous. But after they manage to defeat the Octobots and Spider-Man gives a whole bunch of exposition as to, what the current status quo is, how he's dating Carly Cooper, how he always fights with great power, great responsibility, and we give exposition as to who every character is, just because it's the first issue in Dan Slott's run, it's kind of meant to be a jumping on point. So obviously they use that as sort of the introductory point of introduction for any new readers that might be coming on. After that whole battle, they have a bit of a victory party for Spider-Man, and when I say party, I mean basically they just pat him on the back. And then the rest of the issue, Peter Parker is basically stuck trying to find a new place to live because Michelle Gonzalez is moving out of their apartment. Now that Vin Gonzalez has been released from prison, she no longer has to stay there. She's going to be going and helping him out, trying to rebuild his life. And so because she pays the rent and he really doesn't, she just kicks both of them out. And so Peter has 1 hour to find a new place to live before the webbing that he's used to stick all of his possessions up to a wall, before that webbing dissolves, because obviously we all know Spider-Man's webbing always dissolves after an hour. And so he goes around trying to find a place to live using candidates such as Randy Robertson, Betty Brant, Mary Jane, and they all say no for one reason or another. He even tries to go live with Carly, who he's dating at this point, but obviously she's like, you know, I'm not really sure if we're connected at this point, you know, if we're really at this point in our relationship yet. So obviously she turns.
I want him to date you, but I don't not to let him crash in your couch when he needs it, bitch.
I don't think James likes Carly very much, but at this point,
This is the sequence I hate. I'll admit this is one of the first early red warning signs about this run, about the slot. This whole sequence of him trying to is what begins my double thinking Dan Slott is a good Spider-Man writer.
But meanwhile, John Jameson and Marla Madison are going to visit Aunt May and Jay Jameson Sr. And basically, Marla Madison and Aunt May get to talking about Peter. And Marla says, you know, I kind of want to help him find a job because he obviously has been having trouble finding work ever since he's been blackballed out of the business by Jonah. And Aunt May happens to say that he is very gifted when it comes to science. And so Marla Madison makes a call and arranges for her and Peter to go meet Max Modell at Horizon Labs. Well, when Peter shows up to ask Aunt May and Jay Jameson if he can live with them again, Marla Madison's one step ahead of him and takes him to go see Horizon Labs. And so as they get there, Peter meets Max Modell, meets Grady Scraps and Sejani Jaffrey, who are two of the supporting cast members that are introduced as part of the Horizon Labs think tank and two of Peter Parker's colleagues during this time. He shows very promising scientific knowledge when he's able to basically fix the problem of reverbium on the fly, because reverbium is an imperfect vibranium and it actually reflects any impact on it instead of absorbing it like regular Wakandan vibranium does. So basically, when he's able to do that on the fly, everyone's kind of convinced that, okay, this guy may actually be a pretty good addition to this company. So obviously they hire him, and a pretty humorous scene, in my opinion, was when they give him his Horizon manual to study. He gets what he thinks is a bookmark, but it's not a bookmark. It's actually his first paycheck because they're paying him for his study time. I find it hilarious that he's worked there for all of 5 minutes and he's already getting paid with a check with a substantial amount of zeros, as he puts it. Though in Peter Parker terms, he could probably look at 1 0 and think it's a lot of zeros. But so he swings off, thinking, man, nothing could make this day any better. While at that moment, Wilson Fisk and Montana are in Kingpin's Tower in Shadowland, deciding to use the Hobgoblin as a means for enhancing and forwarding their own goals. And so Roderick, who we assume is Roderick Kingsley, walks in, and the Hobgoblin is back in suit for the first time in I think over a decade at the point of this issue's publication. So that's basically the rundown of Amazing Spider-Man 648 in terms of plot. I will give my thoughts on the issue because I was the one who just gave the rundown, so I'll go first in terms of the actual quote-unquote review of it. I think this issue suffers a lot from the overemphasis on the Peter Parker is a loser thing, because as I was just talking about when we were trying to give the setup for this whole run, this run in particular seems like it's trying to move away from the idea of Peter Parker being that inherent loser. But it's this issue, while it does try to do that, it takes a long time for it to get there. And while it's getting there, I feel like it's just being thrown in our faces that Peter Parker's a loser. Peter Parker's a loser. Peter Parker's a loser. I don't agree with that sentiment in the slightest, because for me, Peter Parker has never ever been a loser. I've never seen him as that. In my opinion, how I've interpreted Spider-Man from all these years of continuity and all the stories that I've read, a lot of the trouble that Peter Parker experiences in his life is just basically the cause of life itself. It's just what happens to people. But also he faces a lot of trouble due to his dual identity and having to juggle 2 lives at once and try to compartmentalize them so that he doesn't have too much overlap between them. That's where a lot of his shortcomings and misgivings end up happening and end up originating from. And so the idea that Peter Parker is just a loser who absolutely cannot get a job and who's just absolutely down on his luck all the time, it's an idea that I don't agree with, and I feel like it's one that's just shoved down our throats for so much of this issue. I mean, that entire sequence where he just cannot find a place to live, and when they're like, oh yeah, did I mention I'm 5 weeks behind on rent? it's just it doesn't ring true to me because I've never seen Peter Parker as the kind of guy who has to mooch off of other people to get by. I've never really interpreted him like that. So it is kind of unsettling for me to see this Peter Parker just be such a loser and just such an just absolutely pathetic. And so I did not like that very much. The artwork in this issue, in terms of Humberto Ramos, it's all right. I don't think that it's anything special. I think Ramos has his good moments. I think he has his moments that I don't particularly like very much. A trait that I would give Ramos in terms of, or not really a trait, more of an adjective I would use to describe Ramos's artwork, is very hyperkinetic. It definitely is. I'm going to use the phrase that it's not easy on the eyes. I don't mean that in that it's not appealing or nice to look at. I use that phrase in that it's very hectic. It's very energetic. It definitely feels like you're following something, but it's actually a bit tiring after you look at it for too long. It makes you. It kind of. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this right. It drives the story in such a hectic way that I do think it does a little bit of a disservice, and it makes the story feel like it's moving faster than it really is, and so it kind of creates a conflict between the story and the artwork, in my opinion. I don't think the artwork is necessarily bad. I think there are definitely a lot of good visuals in here. Particularly, I think that a lot of the first fight at the beginning of the issue with Spider-Man, Avengers, and the Fantastic Four, I think a lot of that looks really good. And I think that the final splash page for the Hobgoblin looks very good. I think the artwork is more of a hit or miss with me. Something I really do like the Horizon Labs job. I like the emphasis on Peter Parker's scientific knowledge, and I do like the idea that it was Peter's knowledge of science and just overall math and technology that was able to stop the Autobots from destroying Manhattan. I did like that they were trying to push the emphasis on Spider-Man as a hero and as a credible hero and a competent hero. It almost kind of feels like they might have been trying to make up for the whole Peter Parker loser emphasis that happens throughout most of the issue. But for me, the Peter Parker loser weighs a bit more heavily than all the stuff that's done with Spider-Man as a hero and Peter Parker as a keen scientist. Maybe that's just me being nitpicky and just petty, but it didn't really. I felt that the Peter Parker loser kind of overshadowed all the good stuff that was done with Spider-Man here. And finally, and we'll get onto this more in the next issue, I love everything that's done with the Hobgoblin in this story. And even though he doesn't show up until the last page here, that last splash page is just gorgeous. And I absolutely loved what ended up happening there. So I think this issue, if I were to give it a thumb rating, it's probably going to be a thumb sideways, probably going to be a little bit in the neutral range. It doesn't really pass with me, but it doesn't really fail. It's all right. It's not really what I would have liked from an introductory issue or a first issue of this run, but it has its strengths, it has its weaknesses. There's room for improvement. There are things that I think are done right. The Horizon Labs job, for example, I really do like that Peter is getting to use his scientific knowledge and make it into an occupation. Obviously, that was done during the time of the Howard Mackie John Byrne reboot back in the late 90s, early 2000s with Tricorp. I didn't really feel like that was ever really explored as well as it could have been. And so I don't really mind that it's being sort of retread here in this run, in this story.
More than being retread, it's basically rip-off. All the workers, including Max Modell, go back and reread that Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, Issue 1. Their designs are exactly the same. Same mustache, curly beard thing is going on with the original bots from Tricorp.
I don't really mind that we're kind of revisiting that idea because I didn't think it was an idea that was really completely explored with Tricorp, and so using it again here, I don't really see any big problem with that. I mean, I can understand why people wouldn't like it. I personally disagree. I think it's fine. Overall, I give the issue a thumb sideways, neutral. I've read a lot better. I've read a lot worse, in my opinion. It's an okay introductory issue. There are some weaknesses. There are some strengths. Overall, I give it a neutral. And so I'm going to turn it over to James. What are you thinking of ASM 648 here?
It's his mixed bag. It's hit or miss. I like the whole Peter using his brains and the Avengers stuff, because one of the running jokes in the Avengers title at the time with Bendis, going all the way back to 2005, is Peter was kind of like he was the jokester of the team. Every team needs the comic relief, and Peter was that kind of role. But it was even to the point where he could never say Avengers Assemble. You would have thought balloons where he's saying, "Oh, I forgot I'm an Avenger now. I could say Avengers Assemble," but then he just calls them up on his cell phone or whatever, and they show up. You know. Like, it was always a running joke that Peter could never say Avengers Assemble, and in the first page here, first thing you read, Avengers Assemble. So I like that kind of stuff. I like the kind of good Parker look that was written in that part, where he saves the guy, and then the guy checks, and he goes, the guy clearly dropped his wallet, or forgot it at home or something. Peter tackles him to save his life, and then he goes, "Hey, my wallet's missing. You must have stole it. Jameson's right. You are a menace." And Peter's like, "I just saved your life, dude, and I'm an Avenger, and you still think I stole your wallet?" That's a good Parker luck, I think. The Michelle things at the time, I was really happy that she was gone because I hated her, like a lot of fans did. But I did kind of think I could screw it over. It's like, you were living there because your brother went to jail. Peter's the guy whose name is probably on the lease. How is he kicked out in this situation? Because you move out. I don't get it. Like, I know they bring up the whole I'm 3 weeks behind on rent, but come on, her name's not on the lease. Her brother is, and so is Peter's. She has no right to kick him out.
Is Peter? I mean, we're probably looking way too far into this, but is Peter's name really on the lease? Because it wasn't Vin already living there when Peter moved in. I mean, I'm a little bit rusty on that particular aspect of Brand New Day, but I'm pretty sure, wasn't it just like an arrangement that Vin had that apartment and basically he was just letting Peter crash there because he needed someplace to live because he desperately.
I think there's even a line like, "I'll send the lease over to you," or something like that. If I remember it, I can go check later, but I think there's a line like that.
It's possible. I mean, I'm a little bit
something like that.
I'm a bit rusty on that aspect of it.
Because I think in New York, even if you let somebody self-live in an apartment, the landlord needs to know who it is in case something happens.
I'm not really sure because obviously I don't live in New York and obviously I've never owned my own apartment. Obviously,
I think that's what it is too. Because I remember somebody brought this up on like a judge show when I was home one day and they were talking about it. It was New York and the lady goes, "Well, if you live in New York City, you know, you can't just have a roommate move in and say that's what's going on. They have to be on the lease or something, or the landlord at least needs to know about the person."
Is it a bad sign that this is what we're most interested in about this story?
No. I trust me. This is just the first part. It gets more, and I get to my rant moment coming up. My since past level rant moments coming up.
Oh gosh.
We get the moments with the front line where it's setting up the fact that it becomes the new Bugle. I like that because the Bugle is always something that should be in the books. I mean, making it a blog called Bugle Girl and then DB and shit like that was just dumb. So to actually have the Bugle there in some form is actually, I love that. And it sets it up that, okay, Jonah sold it, but he sold it before and he got it back. So, he'll get it again one day. So I like how it's like Slott's really setting up the status quo, being back to classic Spider-Man. It's like he's fixing the mistakes with Brand New Day, but there's some stuff obviously he can't fix, kind of things. Because I felt like that was one thing. It's like, I got to bring back the Bugle. I'm the writer now. First thing, we're bringing back the Bugle, and I think that was a good thing. Yeah, we got the whole, and then the next part that I really love, really love, is my next rant. Every fucking person turning down Peter a place to crash because he's such a fucking moron and loser. Robbie, you let him move in with you when you thought, his wife was dead, and then he showed you then that he was a good roommate because you even hanged out with him too after he got his own place once he started his teaching job. I go over it in the freaking JMS files, but you won't let him in now, even though back in the Jenkins run and everything, you never had a problem with him. You never brought up rent, so why are you bringing it up now? You know what I mean?
I think that when it comes to Randy Robertson, the one question that I have is, like, did he really have that old piece of cheese or whatever it was that he called Kevin? Did he really do that? Because that almost sounds too surreal for me, but I haven't read all of Paul Jenkins' stuff from that era.
I can't remember off the top of my head because it might be coming up in my JMS files, but I don't want to say it's. I do kind of remember it, but I don't want to say it did happen and then be like, oh, you're wrong. But yeah, you got this all thing going on. It's like Robbie tells him no. Carly tells him no because I don't think we're in that part for a relationship, which pissed me off when I first read this. Because the issue before, you fucking blackmailed him about his fucking friend's goddamn going away party for the wedding pregnancy, where him and his child could be fucking killed. You blackmail him to date, you bitch. And now it's like, oh, you can't live with me because I'm not ready for that level of relationship. But you fucking forced him into a relationship. Fucking bitch.
I love James' rant so much.
Well, it's true. I'm not making this up. She becomes psycho chick in the middle of a costume store over not having the talk yet. And then now this is you. I'm not going to let my boyfriend move into me when he just lost his apartment. Oh, go fuck yourself, Carly. Seriously, go fuck yourself. And then you get the Flash thing. And it's like, I think Flash let him crash on his couch. Back in Black. You want to know where Peter was sleeping after the whole incident happened with the whole, oh my god, you know, the hotel and the shoot up and everything? You know, do you want to know where Peter stayed, him and MJ stayed? At fucking Flash's place. What?
You remember back during Jared Conway's run on Amazing Spider-Man with Mindworm and that stuff where he decided to stay with Flash for a little bit before he got his apartment with Mrs. Muggins after Harry blew theirs up when he became the Goblin for the first time?
So during Back in Black, Peter's a fugitive, and by you letting him live there, that makes you an accessory where you can go to jail, Flash. You let him move in, but now you can't because Peter's such a loser. And then you got the Betty Brant showing up with her pants off, and it's symbolizing that they're back together, but who gives a shit? It's just status quo stuff for Venom. About him now being the guy who has to hide his secret identity from the girlfriend. And then we get to the icing of the cake of the fuck you moments to the fans with this montage.
Oh gosh.
Mary Jane and him laugh at the idea of them living together. This is what when I talk about during Renew Your Vows. This is what I mean. What I call the middle finger effect. Because this was only put there to go fuck you, fans.
James, do you have any proof of that?
What?
Do you have any proof of that?
Yeah, I do. It's right here, John, clear as day. Mary Jane and Peter laugh. Us living together. Only an idiot would think that's a good idea.
See, here's why I can kind of let that scene go. Because they've just...
He needs a fucking place to stay, John. He's not going to laugh about it and say, oh, yeah, you're right, that's a bad idea. I fucking went to Flash. I went to everybody. I even called up Harry in the Witness Production Agency. Yeah, but it's funny that you won't let me move in with you.
But see, here's why I can kind of understand what they're laughing about. It's just like, after everything they've been through and how messy their breakup was and everything, I can kind of understand like their hesitance to kind of do it again. I don't agree with the idea that he can't stay there because of the fact that, you know, just because. I don't like that.
Harry Osborn moved in with her for a while after Brandon Day. He's an ex-boyfriend and she let him move in. Not only that, he was an ex-boyfriend who tried to kill her a few times as the fucking Green Goblin.
And she drove him to become a drug addict.
I'm not going to win this argument, am I?
No, you're not.
Because it's so fucking out of character for Mary Jane to say no. And it's so fucking out of character for them both to laugh at it. Especially as we see Peter on his hands and knees begging with people in the pages before. Now he's just going to laugh about it? That's all it is. It's a big screw you. Oh, I'm going to Mary Jane. Yeah, it's right, us moving in together. Yeah, you're funny. Get it, fans?
Not really.
It just pisses me off because Mary Jane would never say no. In a million years. She would never say no. In fact, she didn't say no to other ex-boyfriends of her moving in with her. But Peter's the exception? It makes no sense.
All right, James. Just continue on. Let's not even try to have this argument anymore.
And then you got the whole Aunt May moments because now in the Brand New Day / New Big Time / Volume 3, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the Dan Slott era, I guess. Aunt May thinks he's a loser. You read any fucking comic before then, she never saw her nephew as anything more than God's gift to the universe, pretty much. In fact, that was the whole point of the character. She saw too high of him. Here, it's like, oh, I got to tell Aunt May I failed again. And it's like, before, he never was worried about that. But now it's like, oh, now my Aunt May's gonna think me I'm a loser. She never thought I was a loser before, but now she's gonna think I'm a loser.
I can kind of understand that because it's just like even if you know that it's not going to happen, I think maybe we all have that little inkling in the back of our head, like we're always afraid to admit that we failed because we're afraid of what others will think or that they'll think lesser of us. I kind of understand that, honestly.
And then you get to the Venom stuff that's again tied into the new Venom status quo for the new series with Eddie, with Flash, and then you get to Alcatraz or whatever the fuck. Oh no, wait, it's not that. It's freaking Horizon Lab. It's a new place, even though everybody is designed exactly the same as those people from Valiant 2. If you're gonna rip off something from Spider-Man, why are you ripping off the Mackie Byrne era? Literally, you got JMS, you got Conway. You got Stan frickin' Lee. You got Roger Stern. You got DeFalco. You got the fucking Clone Saga. Just don't rip off Volume 2.
No, please don't rip off the Clone Saga. Please don't rip off the Clone Saga. Please, I will. And I think James is flipping me the middle finger right now.
No, I just hate it because literally, if you go back and read that first issue of Volume 1, this whole thing is even that. Peter uses his mind from his remembering stuff about him fighting supervillains to fix a problem, and then he gets the job because of it. It's the same fucking thing. He literally just changed a few names and said, there, it's done. All you need is Scorpion and another Spider-Man to break through and they're fighting each other in the middle of the lab for you to get exactly the same comic. And then you got the Hobgoblin part, which is actually pretty cool, because I remember when I saw this, I flipped over and you see Hobgoblin in that classic suit, and I'm like, oh, Hobby's back! Hobby's back! And then, but here's the question. Who is underneath the mask? Dun dun dun!
Jason! For once in
if it was Jason Philip Macandale, I would have been happy.
If it would have been Jason Philip Macandale, I would have framed it to my wall.
Hey, Black Cat appears later on in this arc, so you never know.
All right, James. So, you give it a thumbs up, sideways, or down? I'm sideways. All right.
It's sideways, but it's tilting down a little bit.
So it's like thumbs 40 degrees.
Yeah.
All right. Would that be 40 degrees? I don't know. It's too late for this. All right, Jan. What are you thinking of ASM 648?
I'm somewhere between you two. It's okay, I guess. I mean, I have some nostalgia for it because it was the first modern Spider-Man comic I read, but I never thought of like the stuff that James just pointed out, but he actually made me like it less because it does feel kind of like a middle finger a lot of times. So, yeah, some sideways, I guess. I like some of it's hurt by like the stuff I've read later, like. The Sinister Six setup is really cool, but like it's cool to see them like as an organized unit, kind of, as opposed to just hey, let's go kill Spider-Man. Like it's more, you know, I mean, they kind of had this in the '90s with Michelini, where he had the Sinister Six get formed towards a greater goal than just killing Spider-Man. But it's kind of like taking that idea and going a little bit and the extra step with it, so that was cool. But I read the story where this gets paid off and it sucks, so it's hard to get excited or enjoy that stuff knowing how crappy the payoff was. If you can even call that story payoff, it was really terrible. So, I don't know, middle of the road for me.
All right.
The highlight is the art. I think the art is beautiful. I'm a huge Humberto Ramos fan, and I'm the only guy in the podcast who will say that, but it's just how I feel. I like his art, so.
All right, moving on to ASM number 649. Basically, we have the exact same creative team as we had on the previous issue. Now, this issue delves a lot more into plot advancement from the setup that was established in the issue that we just discussed. The issue starts off with the Hobgoblin, who we believe to be Roderick Kingsley, basically taking out some South American terrorists or whatever, South American drug lords and crime people, in a pretty awesome way, because he's just basically blowing them up and he doesn't care who gets in his way.
I was off the books for most of the 90s. I'm having my 90s grenades and machine gun action because I missed most of the 90s.
Oh man, this was awesome. It was an awesome page. But he eventually decides to be the Kingpin, to take a spot in the Kingpin's organization, even saying, "I'm your hobgoblin," mainly because the Kingpin says so. He doesn't really want to say it, but he just says it anyway. So he goes back to his secret hideout, which is basically, where he keeps all of his stolen Norman Osborn tech. He finds Phil Urich there. And Phil Urich, who originally had been a heroic Green Goblin back in the 90s, and he even had, well, what was it, a 12-issue limited series, or was it longer than that? I don't even remember.
It was a 12-issue ongoing. It just got canceled, I think.
Yeah. Basically, he's there trying to get hold of some Goblin stuff because he wants to impress Nora Winters, who is currently doing a story on the Goblin culture that's sort of coming to fruition after white supremacists start worshiping Norman Osborn for whatever reason. So he finds the Hobgoblin finds Phil Urich in there, and basically he's about ready to take Urich's head off, and then Urich starts basically losing his mind and starts using his sonic scream. He basically disorients the Hobgoblin just enough for Urich to slice his head off with his flaming fire sword, which the fire sword, by the way, is badass. So meanwhile, Spider-Man and the Black Cat are coincidentally trying to take down one of these Goblin culture biker gangs, and they intercept one of them trying to beat up on Nora Winters, who's a reporter for the Bugle, trying to do a story on them. So they fight those guys all the while bantering back and forth about which one of them's the sidekick, which one isn't. Meanwhile, Phil takes some information on the Goblin stuff to the Bugle. He's trying to talk to Nora, but he's always like, "Oh, I'm getting kind of nervous here. Can I really do this? Can I not?" And so, meanwhile, Peter Parker is starting his job at Horizon Labs, and he goes on his very first day. He's accompanied by his Aunt May, who is just so proud that her little Peter is finally making something for himself. Right, James? I think
You want me to get something ready, John?
I was just baiting James there, but
I'll get to it. Let's not get to it, John.
Basically, Peter meets the remaining members of the Horizon Labs think tank, Uatu Jackson and Bella Fishbaum. He doesn't. Two of the members are actually not seen. One is member number 6, who is revealed to be Morbius in a later issue. Spoilers. And also one is his name is Jerkin, and he's off-site working on another project. So Peter's introduced to his lab, and basically he says, "Okay, I'm going to finally do this. I'm going to, finally put my scientific mind to work." And just as that happens, as he kind of can't really get any ideas flowing, the Phil Urich Hobgoblin attacks Horizon Labs in an attempt to steal the Reverbium. And guess what? Spider-Man goes out there to confront him, and the Hobgoblin uses his sonic scream to disorient Spider-Man, make him bleed basically from everywhere. I want you to make Spider-Man bleed. Sorry, I have to make that joke every single time. And basically the issue ends with the Hobgoblin about to take Spider-Man right out. I'll let James go first with his thoughts on this issue, because I think he has got more to say on it than probably me or Jan does, or Jan or I, whatever. I'm not good at this stuff this late at night. It's 11:30 on a Sunday night. All right, here we go, James. What are you thinking? ASM 649. I have a feeling that we're about to get educated here.
I actually don't have much to complain about, except for one moment that I really am going to complain about. I think John already knows since he was trying to tempt me with it. You got the whole Phil Urich becoming, the Hobgoblin, which I don't find, I don't get why did they do this. They set it up not even in an Amazing book. I think it got set up in like one of the Marvel crossover events that he was slowly going. They hinted that he was going insane. But because they don't really put anything here in this book to explain away, it's just out of nowhere Phil's laughing maniacally like a goblin and wants to be an evil goblin after all those years of being a good goblin, whose whole stick was about redemption, how he's going to redeem the Green Goblin name. And now it's like, nope, screw that, I'm going to become the Hobgoblin and evil. And that's what it feels like, because unless you read that miniseries tie into a crossover event, you don't know what's going on. There's not even a thought bubble. There's not a thing at the end of the book that says about it, or in the beginning, paragraph that's for what you missed last time. Nothing. It's just, oh, he's evil now, and he's psycho, and he's laughing, and he's using his powers that he lost, but somehow he has them back again. It's like Black freaking Cat. Am I there?
Yeah.
Yep, you're there. Oh, are we losing James?
Hello?
Are we losing James? Here we go. There we go.
Uh,
Oh, are we losing him?
fuck you.
Oh, what did I do?
Give me
Why
a
am I getting...
second. Yeah, give me a second. I'm gonna try to reload it.
All right. Basically, while James tries to recover from his own internet problems, I'll give my basic thoughts on the issue. I am much more positive about this issue than I was the previous one. And a big part of that I'm really positive about is the Phil Urich Hobgoblin. I absolutely love the Phil Urich Hobgoblin, and I love everything that is done with him in this issue. I think it's just such a great idea. I think it's such a great character, and I just love the voice they give him. I love the dialogue that they're writing him with. I think he's just batshit crazy, and I just love it. It's just I absolutely adore the angle that they take with this character. It's a goblin that's closer to Peter's age. He's trying to impress girls and all that stuff. I really like the angle that they're taking with it. I like the scene where he basically cuts the other Hobgoblin's head off because, spoilers, it's not Roderick Kingsley, it's Daniel Kingsley. We're able to look back on this with hindsight because we're reviewing the issue 5 years later, and that mystery was already resolved after people whined and complained about it supposedly being Roderick Kingsley. So basically, we have all of that, and I really like the Phil Urich Hobgoblin stuff. I like Peter getting his job at Horizon Labs. I like him sort of settling into that. I also really like. Yeah, James, don't worry, you're there. I also really like the idea that Peter comes to the realization that he's really been using his scientific mind a lot throughout the years because all of the gadgets and doohickeys that he's invented because he's needed them as Spider-Man. And I thought that was a really nice moment for him to come to that realization. So I enjoyed that. I think that Peter Parker is a lot more in character here, and when I say in character, he really represents more the Peter Parker that I interpret him to be. He really represents the Peter Parker that I've always liked throughout the years. He's much smarter here. He seems a lot more competent. The loser aspect is definitely pulled back quite significantly for this issue. So I like a lot of that. The artwork is a bit stronger here, in my opinion. I think Ramos, after his first issue, really starts, to get comfortable with this. The artwork quality picks up a bit, and so I like all that stuff. The only problem I really have with this issue is the banter between Spider-Man and the Black Cat. It's just mainly a Black Cat thing. I'm not really the biggest fan of how she's written in this era. I think she's just a little bit. It doesn't really seem to be very in character for her, and I didn't really like the idea. I don't really understand the idea of her wanting to be on the Avengers. When has she ever cared about that? When has she ever been that much of that kind of person? So I'm not really
She outright says in Maximum Carnage that she never wants to be an Avenger. She outright said she doesn't like them. So why does she want to be one now?
It's a plot that I'm not really on board with. But overall, I like the issue. I definitely give this one a thumbs up. I think this issue is a lot stronger. The Phil Urich Hobgoblin stuff is great. Peter Parker's written a lot better, in my opinion. The fight between Spidey and the Hobgoblin at the end is fairly good, even though it's just a short glimpse of what is to come. I thought it was fairly entertaining. The artwork is stronger. I like the Horizon Labs job. So overall, I give this issue a thumbs up. So James, why don't you just continue on with your thoughts now that I just interrupted you as you had to take your little internet break there.
Yeah, I don't really like the Phil Urich thing. And it's kind of ironic, too, since he's the one that says, I'm your Hobgoblin, and working for the frickin' Kingpin here, because Jan knows where I'm going here with Daredevil. His uncle, spoiler alert, is killed by the Kingpin.
In Daredevil. So
Yeah, I said that.
That's kind of an ironic little thing for us Daredevil fans, but yeah, that's funny. I agree with that.
So he's working for the man who killed his uncle. That's like
Ben Urich
working with the burglar.
Ben Urich is still very much alive here, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it's kind of ironic because what happens in the MCU. Yeah, you got that part. You got the whole Black Cat Spider-Man team up, which Wait a second. Black Cat, Spider-Man team. Oh my God, John, we're stuck in that one off where we ripped it to hell. We're stuck in it. Where's all the lover lines? I'm looking for it now. Lover, 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 lover.
Did they ever? I don't think they ever said lover in this issue.
She says they make a sex joke about, is that the only thing Spider-Man is rubbing up into you? When she says, I hope you can rub off, your Avenger cred will rub off on me.
Yeah, I kind of rolled my eyes at that.
And she says, is that the only thing he's rubbing off you?
That's the kind of highbrow humor we can expect from Dan Slott.
He goes, our relationship's strictly professional, but I already heard he's already with another girl. And it's like, Peter's like, shut up, okay?
Yes,
that part's actually pretty good. I do like the fight. I like it how she assumes that Peter's her sidekick, and she calls him her Bucky. And then Peter goes, normally I'll be insulted, but I actually am an Avenger with Bucky, and he's a pretty cool dude. I like that line because before Bucky was the sidekick who died, you know, and now that he actually Winter Soldier and all that stuff, he's actually a pretty cool character. So Peter's like, yeah, I'm an Avenger, but he's actually a pretty cool guy, so calling me Bucky, thanks for the compliment. So I like that kind of moment where they try to make it out like it's an insult, and Peter goes, no, he's a cool dude, I like him. He's a friend of mine on the Avengers, so ha. You got the clothing moments again. She's all being nice girlfriend, but wouldn't let him live with her. What a bitch. Oh, she wants to go visit his new place, but she won't let him crash at her place.
Yeah, that was the kind of That's the kind of quality stuff that you just expect from Collie Cooper.
And then you get more of that still sexual humor where it's pretty clear that she's talking about. I can't even say it with a straight face. She's talking about.
Oh man, he's laughing so hard he's losing his internet connection.
Yeah, they know what I'm talking about. I'll just say there. That part's kind of like, oh my God, Slott really.
James, repeat your dirty joke you cut out right as you're about to say it.
What?
You cut out right before you were about to make your dirty joke.
I didn't make no dirty joke.
Oh.
I just
move on.
I just said she just brings up something that I'm not going to repeat, and then it's like, this is where the Dan Slott-ism that people start to really hate on him for are popping up. This is where it begins. Because that line was like really uncalled for. It was like
Nora
Winters. It's pretty enormous.
Nora Winters makes a very, very non-vague implication about. Nora Winters makes a very non-vague implication about a certain part of Randy Robertson. Yes, James, you're still there.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh yeah, I think I got it back. Sorry, my internet's really slow tonight. I don't know why.
James, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't hear John.
John's not talking right now.
That's because I'm not talking.
Concerned for your sanity.
Then we get to the Aunt May moment, which, wow, she's all like, oh, it's like the first day of school. She's making him lunch. She's helping him get dressed and everything. It's like the first day of school again for Peter. I think he makes that joke. She's taking him to work. You know, it is. It's pretty much the first day of school. It's the joke. I get it. And then you get the line of the comic. He finally did it, Ben. He finally did it, and you get that flashback to issue 1 of ASM where Peter's like, hey, man, I'm gonna quit school and make a job. That way we can get money in the house after Uncle Ben died. She's like, no, Peter, you must have quit your studies. You got to become a scientist one day. It's your dream. And then she's like, he finally did it, Ben. No shit, she did it fucking 15 years ago. Remember when he came home to him and MJ's apartment that you were staying in, where you made that goddamn rap music joke? Remember that name? He came in and said, I got the job. It's the exact same job with the people who look exactly the same. Remember that? No? Okay, moving on then. And the other thing that's kind of a screw up here. Dan Slott, to promote this issue, said you need to buy this because a promise Peter made back in issue 1 is going to be called up here. And this is what Slott's talking about. Where in this flashback panel does Peter ever mention, I promise you, Aunt May, I'll be a scientist? Nowhere. So why are you promoting it as you need to read this issue because a promise that got brought up in issue 1 Peter finally fulfills? He didn't make a promise here.
All right, then.
Yeah, this is pisses me off with her. He finally did it, Ben. No shit, he did it fucking 15 years ago when you were there.
Man, James has some anger tonight.
Just for this issue.
Oh man, I can't wait till we talk about a certain something that happens on the next
The
issue.
fight parts, because they're actually pretty good. I kind of like it that Peter. It sets up that Peter inventions are what he does with Spider-Man, where he's trying to think outside the box of what he does with Spider-Man. He can't really come up with anything. I kind of like that. That it's going to set up status quo that he's going to use this job to make Spidey tech. So I like that, and I like the whole him finding the Hobgoblin and how he makes a reference to the fact that oh you're not Kingsley, and I think doesn't he make the dumpster joke here? Or is that with the Hobgoblin, or is that with Kingpin? 'Cause I read this last night. I don't remember the exact dialogue.
No, I
But
think that's with Kingpin in a later issue.
Which I gotta bring this up because I forgot about this. So many people got really pissed off about the beheading, and I think it was me and a few select others that said, "Why? How many other times have we seen the Hobgoblin die to get revealed that that's not the Hobgoblin under the mask? How many times have we seen that they set up him having a twin brother? Okay, granted, it's Stern's last issue, and then Goblin. He has a
And James is losing connection again.
chop off the Hobgoblin head when it's probably not Kingsley.
All right, James, do you give this a thumbs up, sideways, or down?
Same as last issue.
All right, so he gives it a thumb sideways. Jan, what are your thoughts on ASM 649?
I really hated this issue when I first read it because I thought they killed Roger Kingsley, and he's a great character, but they kind of I don't know if they retconned it or if Slott planned it all along. I'd imagine probably a combination of both.
I know. I think he planned it all along because when people were asking him online, "How dare you kill Roderick?" And he would always say, "Well, I killed a Kingsley," and stuff like that. He was hinting, dropping into, "Guys, think about it. It's probably not, him in the mask."
Yeah, but I remember I hated it when I first read it, and now I don't know. I mean, I think Phil Urich is a pretty fun villain. Overall, I think of the recent Spider-Man villains that have kind of been introduced recently, he's probably the strongest one or one of the stronger ones. He's a pretty cool, kind of dark Peter Parker in some ways, even though.
That's the only reason why I don't like him is because in this issue they're clearly trying to set up that he's the evil Peter Parker because we have it's not like we haven't seen this 100 times already. The villain who's the evil version of Spider-Man, and that's what they're setting up
but
here.
I'm a sucker for that.
Peter, he works
I'll
at the
be honest,
Bugle.
I'm a sucker for that. So.
Yeah, he has to keep a secret from the girl he can't get.
Yeah, I don't really care though because I like that trope. So the fact that he's kind of an evil Peter Parker, I don't know. I like that kind of stuff, and it's actually done pretty cleverly. And it's I don't know. I didn't catch some of it until reading it this time. I think it's he takes footage of himself and sells it to his Uncle Ben and stuff. It's cool. The fight's pretty cool. I think Spider-Man's quips are pretty funny about Barry White music and all that whatnot. I'd give this a thumbs up. I think it's an improvement over the last one. There's not really much that pissed me off.
All right, but moving on here to Amazing Spider-Man number 650. Creative team Dan Slott, writer Humberto Ramos, pencils. We got 3 inkers on this one. Cuevas, Damon, and Olazaba. There are no first names there. Edgar Delgado on colors. VC's Joe Caramagna on letters. Tom Brennan, associate editor. Stephen Wacker, small time, but he's also senior editor. Basic rundown of this issue. Basically, the Hobgoblin is just about to take Spider-Man's head off when he's stopped by Lady Gaga and her bad romance. I want your bad romance, rah, 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 So basically, the Hobgoblin retreats to Sajani's lab to try to get some reverbium, and he gets away with some, but he's also taken video of his theft, which he intends to sell to the Daily Bugle as an exclusive first appearance of an all-new Hobgoblin. Meanwhile, Max Modell decides that the rest of the reverbium must be destroyed because, Sajani has compromised the safety of others by creating it. Peter realizes that the Hobgoblin has taken the reverbium and calls up Felicia Hardy. Now, James, what is Felicia doing when she takes this phone call? Where is she?
I don't know, John. I clearly don't know. Maybe she's in a bathtub.
Oh man, is she?
Granted, she's in a white bathtub full of milk while cats are licking it. I will admit that it's pretty dirty.
That is so dirty. It's not even
but she's not calling her Peter her lover, so I forgive it.
All right, but he calls her up because he needs to break into the king. He needs to find out where the Hobgoblin is, so she uses her underworld contacts and finds out, obviously, Hobgoblin's location, where they can get the Reverbium back. And so, meanwhile, Spider-Man is working up a new spider suit to kind of provide a little bit of a resistance to the Hobgoblin's sonic scream so that he can't hurt him with it again. And so he creates basically a suit that allows him to turn invisible, but also counters the frequency and the sound waves that will ultimately hurt him with the sonic attack that the Hobgoblin uses. So basically, with this high-tech suit at his disposal, along with Black Cat as his partner, they go and launch an attack on the Hobgoblin and Kingpin's base. You know, they totally have the element of surprise. Nothing bad will happen here. All right, Jan, you went last the previous time. We'll start with you this time. What are you thinking of Amazing 650?
I think it's good. You know, it's about the same as last issue. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the way Slott writes Black Cat, but Black Cat is so inconsistent in all these different comics that I've read. Like, she's kind of inconsistent here from the way she is later on in Slott's run, like during the relaunch, during Volume 4. And she's, you know, inconsistent, like, from when, freaking frack, what was that? Man, who created Black Cat? What was that writer?
Marv Wolfman.
Yeah, okay. Wolfman wrote her differently than David, and David wrote her differently from Roger Stern. Like, all the writers have written her differently over the years, so I feel like she's not a super consistent character a lot of the time, so I kind of forgive the different versions, and I don't know. Even though Slott's version is kind of silly, at least, I don't know. I don't mind it that much. She's not like a character that I'm crazy about anyway.
You want to get in that milk bath with her?
I do. I'm kidding.
Oh, gosh, I was not expecting that. Okay, I'm creeped out. Okay, I'm creeped out. Say goodbye to Jan, everybody.
So I don't know. Thumbs up. You know, I enjoyed it.
All right, James, what are you thinking of Amazing Spider-Man number 650? Milk baths and all.
What is it about Spider-Man and Black Cat and baths? I just gotta know, because this is like, what, the 5th time this month I have something like that I either had a review or talk about.
I swear this is not intentional. It's just like, this just keeps happening.
It's kind of funny because in the Hobgoblin thing, I call out this very panel, remember?
Oh my gosh, it's just, wow.
And it's a Hobgoblin storyline again. We all go full circle, people. Full circle.
Man, the Hobgoblin just has this thing where Felicia wants to take her clothes off.
I like this issue a little bit. The Hobgoblin stuff is cool. The Lady Gaga thing is pretty funny because it was topical at the time. You know, Bad Romance. And I love it how they get away with copyright infringement by just having Bad Romance and little parts of her song in there, but not enough to get a full string of lyrics. It's a random, like, Bad Romance being thrown in every once in a while. So I kind of like that. The whole idea of Lady Gaga, how Spider-Man defeat, you know, Hobgoblin is pretty funny. You got, again, more of that Dan Slott sexual humor, you know, with Peter can't change his clothes in time, so he just says, yeah, I always do my science work in the nude. What? It's like, oh, don't come in. Peter, we're coming in. What? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you guys. I got headphones on. Yeah, I always work when I'm naked. Bye. Oh, that explains everything.
Yes, he accesses the emergency override to the black box, which he stresses in the last issue that no one but Peter can access. But in this issue, oh yeah, oh no, we can totally override it. Literally, it took them one issue to retcon something that they established one issue prior. Awesome.
I think it's something where he goes, only Peter can get in, but he does have an ability for him to get in. Because let's say you find out your other science is creating a super nuke to blow up the whole planet. He's going to want to get in that lab to stop it. So I think it's just a thing where he tells them, I can't get in, but then it's like he really does know how to get in.
That was a nitpick of mine, but go on.
Yeah, you got that. I actually don't really mind that, 'cause like I said, I just saw it as, of course he's going to have a way to get in, because let's say you're building a super bomb or something like that. He's going to want to know. If you're doing something to blow up his, you know, his company or whatever, he's going to want to know. You got the Black Cat moment. I don't have to repeat myself. I already mentioned it. In fact, I already mentioned it in our Hobgoblin review. You got the Phil York thing, setting him up as he's the evil Peter Parker, like bringing in photos and stories about the Hobgoblin, and it just seriously is like, that's the only part I don't like, is Phil has never been wanting to be like Peter. Why does he want to be like Peter now?
I don't think he's necessarily trying to be like Peter. It's just they're just recycling old plots without acknowledging it.
And then we get my next really, really big, freaked out F-bomb level rant.
Oh gosh, I know exactly where this is going.
Mary Jane cannot understand the technobabble. Isn't she dumber than Carly, people? See how much a good match Carly is and not Mary Jane? Mary Jane's too stupid to catch on. And not only is she too stupid, she's zoning them out with thinking about them talking about models. Because isn't Mary Jane so stupid? When,
Okay, so
even right now in Renew Your Vows, even she could keep up a little bit. And even if she couldn't, they didn't go all out to make her a complete dumbass like they are here. This page is only here to say, once again, isn't Carly so much better than MJ, guys? Come on, look at it. She's better than MJ. Oh, God, it just pisses me off so much this way. Because this is clearly what's going on here. Because it's literally MJ's point of view as they talk about technobabble, and she's all like, and it actually says, fashion, celebrities, fashion. It's showing her flop balloon during this, and she's saying fashion, celebrities. I don't understand what they're talking about, fashion and celebrities. It's like too much here. This is why I say the character assassination of Mary Jane during this run. And this is a prime example of it. Fuck you.
oh gosh. Well, I apologize to all Marvel executives on James's behalf because damn.
No, I meant the story. I meant the story, not the. Well, I guess in instance I'm also calling out the people who made the story. But in the story, it's just, like I say, Renew Your Vows when he's talking about the device that he made to hide him and his daughter's powers. MJ doesn't go, Peter, slow down. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not fashion and modeling, so I don't have no idea what you're talking about. She kept up with him pretty well, didn't she, John?
Yeah, she keeps up with him perfectly.
Back when I'm currently rereading, you know, the not only the I was gonna say the JMR, but I don't know why I was gonna say that. The JMS era, you know, which I'm reading for the files. She can keep up with him there with technobabble. She can keep up with Tony Stark even when him and Peter are talking about technobabble with Avenger stories. And then you got, you know, I'm rereading the whole beginning of the marriage from beginning to end with the Michelini run. She can keep up with him there, where she's super fashion model. Here she can't though. Seriously, Marvel. Here she's zoning them out, thinking about fashion models.
Yeah. All right. So, James, any other points, or do you give this a up, sideways, down?
Oh, and another thing is when Carly in a panel where she's angry calls out the fact that he's friends with the Avengers because of all the stuff that happened, you know, with Tony's alibi being back during his run. Yeah, Peter's working with us because Peter gave us Peter lives here and he helps us out because he's Peter Parker, he's Spider-Man's photographer, and he's also a scientist, so he helps me around my lab. And then here Carly calls him out for it, because remember, that's one of the things that Quesada that he hated about that needed to be fixed with Brainy Day. And then she calls out again, and you had a supermodel girlfriend. This is again Marvel calling it out. Like, see, we're making it better, much better. And then he gets a new suit, and I kind of actually like the design of the new suit, so I actually kind of like that stuff. Hello? Oh, goddamn, don't say I missed everything.
I'm here.
Oh, yeah, you guys froze for a second. Did you guys hear everything I said?
I think you and I lost John.
Okay. Yeah, it's just this panel. I mean, I'm going to rant about it again while John's gone. She actually calls out the fact that, oh, yeah, nothing special. We just lived with the Avengers for a while since Peter was working with them at the tower. And she goes, with your supermodel girlfriend? It's like, it doesn't it sound like, though, them calling that shit out? Like, see, we're calling out how dumb it is?
No, I mean, I disagree with you, actually. I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I'm not like, I don't know. I don't think every time Mary Jane does something wrong in these issues is them, like, flipping people off. Like, I mean, I understand, like, where you're coming from, especially since you're such a big fan of the marriage and whatnot, but I don't know. I feel like
I don't like it because she's getting mad at him for having a supermodel girlfriend and working with the Avengers.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing we were talking about earlier with like Mary Jane not understanding their technobabble. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that means she's stupid that she can't understand insanely like high tech stuff. Like I don't think they're making fun of Mary Jane. They're just saying that Peter and Carly are nerds. Like I don't like Carly either. I hate Carly as much as you.
There's ways to get around that, like what the Fantastic Four does, or even what Power Rangers did when Billy would or Reed Richards would start with the techno battle, or even the Avengers when Iron Man would start the techno battle, or Hank Pym. They would say Hank in English, and then he'll explain it in layman's terms. MJ doesn't even ask questions to understand it. She just zones them out and thinks about modeling. Where before, back in the Michelini era and in the Straczynski era and stuff like that, she would ask questions. She'll say Peter in English. She would actually be interested and want to know what he's talking about. Here it's just zoning him out, thinking about models.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't agree with you, but you have a decent point, I guess.
Did I ever come back?
Yeah. There's two of you right now.
Is there two of me right now? That's fun.
Yep.
Oh, there I am. Now I think there's just one of me. All right. But basically, I'll give my basic thoughts on ASM 650 right now. I did not like this issue as much as the previous one. I think it has a bit more weaknesses. Like James said, I did not like the MJ and Carly scene very much. I thought I basically just copy and paste everything James said in that discussion, and just paste it into me, except for the insults at the story and at Marvel executives. I did not really like it that much, so I just kind of forget that scene.
Yeah, it's like I was telling Jan when you were missing and we were just discussing it, going back and forth. The thing I want to clarify for people who think that I'm just bitching about why isn't Mary Jane super smart, I'm not. Like I clarified to Jan. It's okay, but kind of like what they do in the Fantastic Four books or in the X-Men books when they got a super brainy person, or even Power Rangers. When the really brainy guy starts using technobabble, normally they'll say, "Hey, repeat in English or repeat that for me." They'll ask to understand it. That's what Mary Jane used to do when she couldn't understand stuff. She would ask Peter or Carly, "Hey, slow down. Can you explain this to me?" Here it's not. It's just, "Oh, I love modeling. I'm zoning them out. I don't understand what they're saying. It's smart stuff. Who cares?" It felt really like character assassination to me.
I don't know. I think if you're talking about Mary Jane character assassination, there's like, oh my god, I'm just so stupid because I said assassination in the dumbest way ever. But I think if you're talking about Mary Jane character assassination, there's other places where it's much worse than this. Like I think if this is like the worst Mary Jane scene in your Spider-Man book today, then you're in good shape.
Well, my point is, it's not. It just gets worse from here.
Exactly.
But it's a fault. I'm for reviewing this issue as this issue. It's a fault to me, so I'm calling it out.
Other stuff I didn't like. I didn't really like the moment where they walk in on Peter and his excuse is, "Oh, I do my science, in the nude." Yeah, I was not really a big fan of that. I just thought that was a bit too over the top. I didn't like that. Things I like in this issue. Well, obviously, I love the Black Cat bathtub scene because obviously, I'm just a sick, perverted old comic fan who can't get any action whatsoever, and I need to live vicariously through characters, and I obviously need to just, I obviously get titillated by, sexy comic book characters. Yeah, that was sarcasm for all y'all who are about to freak out. Yeah, whatever with the Black Cat milk bath scene, just whatever. I didn't really care. I think I'm just going to repeat or just kind of reference what I said about the Black Cat in the previous issue. So just look to that if you're looking for any sort of thoughts on the Black Cat stuff in here. I still love the Phil Urich Hobgoblin stuff. I like his banter with the Kingpin. I like his banter with Montana. All that stuff is pretty good in my opinion. Again, I like Phil selling his stuff to the Daily Bugle. I like kind of the dichotomy they're setting up between him and Peter Parker. Obviously, Phil's not intentionally trying to be like Peter. He's more just trying to basically they're just recycling old plots. But I'm not really too opposed to that, so it doesn't really sit that badly with me. Overall, I give the issue a thumb sideways. It has its It has its weaknesses. It has its strengths. I do like the new suit. I think the new suit design is pretty cool. I like the idea of Spider-Man creating new suits to battle specific villains. I like that idea. It fits with the character, in my opinion. So all that stuff's good. The MJ and Carly stuff, eh. The Naked Peter stuff, eh. Overall, I give the issue a thumb sideways. Yeah, basically that's all I can say about that. So, did we get everyone for 650? I've completely forgotten at this point.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I can say that after I get my opinion in about 6:51, I'm going to go to bed.
All right, but
I'm like really tired, and I have a test tomorrow. So.
Basically, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 651. As I just give the creative team up, just really quickly here. Got Dan Slott writer, Humberto Ramos pencils, Carlos Cuevas and Joseph M. Damon on inks, Edgar Delgado on colors, VC's Joe Carmagna on letters, Ellie Pyle, assistant editor, Tom Brennan, associate editor, Stephen Wacker is a CeeLo fan, evidently, but he's also senior editor. Basically, this issue is just Spider-Man and the Black Cat infiltrating the Kingpin's tower and fighting the Hobgoblin and the hand ninjas and all that. They managed to destroy the Reverbium, all that stuff. Black Cat gets out. The Kingpin, the Kingpin's towers crumbled, and basically Peter Parker at the end of the issue ends with Peter and Carly taking Aunt May and J. Jameson Sr. out to dinner to celebrate Peter getting his new job. I know that was a very quick recap, but honestly, that's the basic gist of the issue. It's basically a big fight scene, and that's not really a negative for me. I'll go into my thoughts very quickly here. I like this issue in the sense that I like a lot of the stuff that happens during the action sequence. Again, I like Spider-Man's new suit. I like the banter between the Kingpin and the Hobgoblin during a lot of this stuff. The fight sequences are very solid. The artwork is pretty good for this. I didn't mention the artwork in the last issue, but I'll mention it here because it does play a big part in telling the story of the action. I think the artwork is fairly strong here. Ramos has definitely gotten into his comfort zone by this point, and he's kind of mastered what he wants to do with this, and so it's a bit easier to follow. It's still very hyperkinetic, but it actually kind of works with this scene because the pacing is and the storytelling in general is supposed to be a bit more hectic. It's supposed to draw you in a little bit more, create a little bit more tension, so it kind of works in that sense. The one thing I didn't like was the textless speech bubbles. I thought that was just kind of stupid. Obviously, I get that the villains can't hear Spider-Man and Spider-Man can't hear the villains. I just thought that was kind of stupid. I didn't really enjoy that idea very much. But overall, there's not really a whole lot for me to say about the rest of the issue. Again, the Hobgoblin stuff is great. The Kingpin stuff is great. Montana falls and basically gets offed. Don't care. Overall, I give the issue a thumbs up. It's a solid enough ending to the story, but overall, I don't really have much to say about it. It's a solid fight sequence. It wraps the story up nicely. I guess that's really all we can ask for. So, Jan, I'll give you your thoughts on ASM 651 and also just your final thoughts on this arc in general.
Okay. This is a fun story. I think it's action and payoff. I was kind of surprised that they killed off Montana. He's the one who died. It's Montana who dies, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's kind of interesting. And he was, he's not like a major Spider-Man villain, but he's showed up quite a bit over the years, and he was,
he's the Ditko era
clearly. What? What did you say?
He's a Ditko era villain.
Yeah, exactly. He's a Ditko era villain. I was kind of surprised that they would kill him off. But I think that kind of helped raise the stakes, I guess, for Slott's run to show that he's a little bit not afraid to push some envelopes, and obviously that comes back in a big way later on as his run continues. I actually thought the wordless thoughtful or speech balloons or whatever you would call them were actually entertaining and added to the humor. I really like. It's been on through the whole series, but in this issue, I really like not the whole series, the whole arc. I really like the Kingpin's black suit. I like that look, and it reminds me of the Daredevil TV show where he has that black suit. So I always thought that's kind of cool. And the hand ninja, like Spider-Man fighting hand ninjas, is cool. That's another kind of classic Daredevil thing. So I had fun with this issue, and the arc as a whole, I think, is actually pretty solid. I think it's fairly reflective of Dan Slott's run. There's going to be some stuff that's going to piss off fans like James who love Mary Jane, but as a guy who likes Mary Jane but is not nearly as like passionate about the character as a lot of other people are.
Oh, don't make it sound like I'm a crazy guy. I'm not going to be like one of her 1,000 stalkers that have been in the titles over the last 30 years.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm just saying that you really enjoy the marriage and you think that she's a great character, right?
Yeah. I love Mary Jane. She's my second favorite Spider-Man character just behind Peter.
Yeah, exactly. And you're probably pissed off about the way he handles her a lot in this story, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I was saying. Whereas I'm not really offended by that stuff because I like Mary Jane, but she's not like, I don't know, like none of the love interests are really like. I just like love interests that make the character more interesting, and Mary Jane does that a lot, and she probably is my favorite love interest. And I really like. I'm going on a rant anyway. On the whole, I think I give the whole arc like if we're gonna give it letter grades, I give it like a B or a B plus. Like I think it's pretty good, and I think there's way more stuff that works than that doesn't. And I think if you can overlook some uncomfortable moments that might piss off, some fans, I think it's a pretty entertaining Spider-Man story, and it's a really good start to Slot's run. And on that note, I'm going to sign off because I'm going to bed. Have a good week, you guys, and I'll see you next week.
Yeah, Jan.
All right, Jan. See you. Thanks for being on, buddy.
Yep.
All right, James. What are you thinking of ASM 651 in this arc in general?
Well, now that Jan's gone, I can tell you what I really think of him. No, it's just joking.
Let's
Joke, guys. Jan's a cool guy. I'm not gonna go rant on him or anything. I'm saving my rant for the comics. This issue, I don't really have much to rant on except for a few things, but the rest of the issue, I think this is pretty good. Like you said, it's one big fight scene, so I can't really talk about it. I agree with John too. I hate the whole fought balloons that are blank thing. They could have got away with it with just not showing fought balloons and speech balloons, and then having a fought balloon that says Peter goes, I can't hear him or whatever, or a fought balloon and a hot dog saying I can't hear him. It will sell the same point. Because when I first got that, I thought, holy crap, my comic book is ruined when I first got it. I thought like they're missing a log here. I freaked out.
I'm sure there are people who thought that. I'm sure there are.
Because I went to my comic shop the next day and I go, yeah, I think my comic has a mistake in it. And then everybody else was like, no, that's how mine was too. They were trying to get over the fact that, he can't hear them. And I'm like, but why not just have there be no speech bubbles then? And they go, I agree with you. It was dumb. John, are you still with us? Oh, God, don't tell me it froze again. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Sweet monkey.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I still have my sweet monkey. Still have my... Hello? Yeah. I still have my sweet little monkey. It's cute. No. 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 No.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Hello? Am I back?
Hello?
Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's one big fight that popular things I don't really like. My big complaint about this issue is that goddamn Ramos art.
Oh.
Go back to the front page. I mean, the second page. Look at the size of freaking Fisk's head.
I don't have the comic in front of me, so I can't do that, unfortunately. But yeah, I think he's holding it up there.
It is just terrible. And then you got the last page where look at you can't look at it, but Carly's goddamn foot, her legs and her foot, the way he drew them, it looks like she has what do you call it? Those things that are like that have those goat feet, those mystical creatures.
I don't know.
Well, whatever they're called, it looks like she has hooves her feet. Let's just say that.
Okay.
And yeah, the artwork. And then my last little gripe is that last panel where Aunt May's like, Peter can't drink. Aunt May, don't make me say it. Oh, come on, say it just once for me. Okay, I can't. I got work tomorrow. Like, it's a new thing for him to say it. No, like, he wasn't a freaking teacher. Like, he already didn't have a freaking the same job he has now with the same freaking people. His name's changed. Like, he didn't have working for the Bugle. Come on. This ain't a new recurrence. Peter has had careers before, people.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had to grade the book, I would give this one a sideways. And that's my final review of this whole arc. It's a sideways. It sets up Dan Slott run, and like I said, as for somebody who was highly positive about his run going into it, he was my favorite guy, the Brain Trust. These are the warning signs of where I am now when I review his comics.
All right. Basically, that's going to do it for the reviews for this episode. That's also going to do it for this episode of the podcast. We thank everyone for tuning in this week. So, James, final shout-outs for the listeners before we sign off.
Final shout-outs to everybody who told me wish me a happy birthday. Thank you. That was awesome. Next shout-out, I honestly don't know who to shout out. So that's done. You know.
All right.
You go, Mo.
My shout-outs this week. James, happy birthday. That's my shout-out. Marvel, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, all of them, thank you for Spider-Man in general. What other shout-out do I have this week? I guess shout-out to my college because, holy crap, I have to get up in the morning for class, and I'm up at past midnight doing a podcast about Spider-Man, something that really doesn't matter.
Classes for me don't start till next week, so I'm excited. I got that to look forward. It's not until the 8th.
I'm really stupid. I really should be in bed right now. That's where I'm going after we do this. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. And, yeah, see y'all later.
# Carly sucks.